Welcome back to Apex Sci-Fi. There is a point in every civilization's development where they begin to view physical matter as primitive. The Luminara were the prime example of this evolution. To them, the universe was composed of light, frequency, and vibration. Their ships were not made of metal. They were woven from hard light, a state of matter where photons are slowed and bonded into solid structures. Their weapons were not projectiles, but concentrated beams of harmonic resonance that could vibrate an enemy's atoms until they simply drifted apart. But their greatest achievement was the prism shield. It was a perfect defensive layer that didn't just absorb energy, it reflected it. To the Luminara, the concept of a missile or a bullet was a barbaric relic of pre-enlightenment species. They had spent 10,000 years fighting other advanced civilizations, winning every war because their shields were perfectly tuned to the high-frequency energies of the modern galaxy. Plasma, antimatter, gamma rays, it all just washed over the golden bubbles of the Luminara like water over a stone. When they entered the Sol system, the Luminara didn't even bother to accelerate. They drifted toward Earth with the casual indifference of a god visiting a museum. They saw the human fleet, the blocky, ugly hulls of the United Terran Navy, and they laughed in their harmonic language. "The primitives are firing light sticks at us," the Luminara Archon remarked as the Terran lasers bounced off his flagship's hull, illuminating the bridge in a beautiful, harmless golden glow. "Tell them to stop. It is distracting. Proceed to the third planet and begin the solar refinement process. The biomass is irrelevant." On the bridge of the UTN Iron Will, General Gravel Vance sat in his command chair, chewing on an unlit cigar. He watched the sensor data. The human Navy's most advanced experimental plasma cannons were doing exactly nothing. The Luminara shields were 100% efficient. It was like trying to punch a ghost. "Sir," his tactical officer said, his voice trembling. "The laser batteries are at max capacity. No effect. The antimatter torpedoes are detonating on the surface of their shields, but the energy is being refracted away. We're throwing everything we have and we aren't even scratching the paint." Vance grunted. He stood up and walked over to the holographic display, looking at the elegant, spindly ships of the Luminara. He didn't see beauty. He saw an engineering problem. "Their shields," Vance rasped. "They're light-based, right? They work by matching the frequency of the incoming energy and reflecting it back." "Yes, sir. It's a perfect phase shift. Anything with a high energy signature is neutralized instantly." Vance pointed to the debris of a human scout ship that had been destroyed minutes earlier. A piece of the hull, a jagged chunk of steel, was drifting slowly toward a Luminara frigate. It hit the golden shield and simply bounced off. It didn't explode. It didn't get reflected. It just bumped into it like a ball hitting a wall. "Did you see that?" Vance asked. "The shield didn't phase it. It just pushed it." "Well, yes, sir. Physical mass doesn't have a frequency to match. But it's irrelevant. A floating piece of scrap doesn't have the energy to break a hard light bond." Vance's eyes narrowed. "A floating piece of scrap doesn't. But what if we hit them with something heavy? And what if we hit them really, really fast?" The tactical officer blinked. "Sir? You mean a railgun?" "No," Vance said, a predatory grin spreading across his face. "I mean a hammer. Tactical. Signal, the anvil. Tell them to stop the FTL calibration. We're going to use the primary drive for something else." The anvil was not a warship. It was a massive 10-mile-long industrial processing station located in the asteroid belt. Its primary purpose was to use its massive electromagnetic rails to launch refined metal ingots toward the orbital foundries of Earth. It was essentially a giant slingshot for the economy. Within the hour, the economic slingshot was repurposed for war. Human engineers, working with the manic desperation of a species facing extinction, didn't build a new weapon. They just grabbed a massive, skyscraper-sized rod of solid tungsten carbide, a log used for ship construction, and loaded it into the firing track. General Vance gave the order over a wideband frequency. He wanted the Luminara to hear it. "Luminara Archon," Vance's voice crackled over the alien's elegant comms. "You have a very pretty shield. It's a work of art. But humans didn't start with light. We started with rocks. And we've spent the last million years getting really, really good at throwing them." The Archon tilted his head. "Your rocks are an insult to the laws of entropy, human. You cannot break the divine light with dust." "Watch us," Vance said. "Fire." Deep in the belt, the anvil groaned. The entire electrical grid of the Mars colonies flickered as every megawatt of power was diverted into the station's rails. The 10-mile track glowed blue with the heat of the friction. The tungsten rod, weighing 10,000 tons, was accelerated. It didn't move at the speed of light. It didn't have a frequency. It was just mass. Specifically, it was mass moving at 1% of the speed of light. In physics, when the V is that high, the M becomes a mountain of godlike violence. The rod arrived at the battle in seconds. The Luminara sensors didn't even flag it as a threat. Their AI was looking for energy spikes, for plasma heat, for radioactive signatures. It ignored the cold, dark piece of metal screaming through the void. The rod hit the Luminara flagship, the Weaver of Stars. The hard light shield didn't reflect it. It couldn't. The shield was designed to manipulate photons, but a 10,000-ton tungsten spear doesn't care about photons. It cares about Newton's second law. The golden bubble of the shield didn't just pop, it shattered. The perfect light-matter splinters flew in every direction as the kinetic energy of the rod transferred into the ship's structure. The Weaver of Stars didn't explode in a ball of fire. It was simply deleted. The tungsten rod punched through the bow, traveled through the entire length of the ship, shredding the crystal engines and the light bridges, and exited through the stern, barely losing any momentum. The Luminara fleet went into a state of total system shock. What happened? The Archon screamed as his bridge shook with the force of the ship's literal disintegration. The shields? Retune the frequency. There is no frequency, his science officer wailed. It's just a solid object. It's hitting us with raw momentum. We can't phase shift a hammer. Vance didn't stop. He had millions of tons of refined metal in the belt, and the anvil was already loading the next rod. Send the second one, Vance ordered. And tell the cargo haulers to start dumping the ballast. If it's heavy and it's metal, throw it at them. The sky over Earth became a shooting gallery. The humans were no longer trying to be advanced. They were being Terran. They used their FTL-capable freighters to make short-range micro-jumps, appearing behind the Luminara ships and simply launching their cargo containers at them at relativistic speeds. It was a massacre of elegance by industry. The golden ethereal fleet was being hammered into scrap by blocks of iron, lead, and steel. The human fleet followed up with their standard railguns, firing millions of small hypervelocity slugs that the Luminara shields were never designed to stop. The Archon's flagship was a twisted wreck of light and shadow. He looked out his cracked viewport as another tungsten rod, the Hammer of Earth, obliterated his second-in-command's ship. Why? The Archon whispered, his logic failing him. Why would you use such crude methods? You have the power of the atom. You have the secret of the stars. Vance's voice came over the radio, calm and cold. Because the atom is complicated, pal. But a rock? A rock is honest. You can't negotiate with a rock. You can't outsmart it. You just have to get out of its way. And you guys are in our way. The Luminara fled. The survivors of the fleet jumped into hyperspace, their hard light hulls scarred and dented by the most primitive weaponry they had seen in 10 millennia. They retreated to the galactic core, warning every other advanced species they encountered. The humans do not fight with light. They fight with gravity. They fight with mass. If you go to Sol, they will not challenge your mind, they will break your bones. The Galactic Council called General Vance to account for his unorthodox methods. They argued that using kinetic kill vehicles on an interstellar scale was barbaric and dangerous to the orbital lanes. Vance just looked at them, lit his cigar, and blew a cloud of smoke at the holographic Inquisitor. The universe is full of fancy lights, Vance said. But we're the ones with the hammer. And as long as people keep bringing lasers to a rock fight, we're going to keep winning. Humanity had proven the most fundamental HFY truth. You can evolve past the need for air, for food, and for bodies. But you can never evolve past the need to worry about a 10-ton piece of metal moving at 30,000 kilometers per second. Because in the end, physics doesn't care how enlightened you are. This has been Apex Sci-Fi. If the laser doesn't work, get a bigger rock, and throw it harder. If you enjoyed this kinetic victory for humanity, hit that like button. Comment below. What is your favorite low-tech beats high-tech moment in sci-fi? Subscribe for the next chapter of Terran Ascendance. The Medic's War. The rod is in flight. The hammer has fallen.